And welcome back once again to the PCS Summer. We are in the mix and into the midst of it for week 3 here. I'm still Pyrotechnics. He is still Clement. We got a couple more games for you tonight, but before we get into that, I want to take a moment to thank our lovely sponsors, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Thank you for making the PCS possible. All right, so Clement, we've got one more match, or a couple more matches coming up, and this one is going to be Boom Esports taking on the Berjaya Dragons, who did manage to get one game in the W column to go 3-6 now, but they face an uphill climb against the likes of Boom, who are red hot after yesterday.
Berjaya and Boom Esports, they did split one game apiece in terms of the spring split double round robin, so it's definitely in the history books that Berjaya can take down Boom Esports, despite Boom Esports always having the higher ranking. But the biggest person that they have to face and overcome definitely is Ruby. On 11.14, this man has finally found his groove. He's statistically the best mid laner that we have right now. It's kind of hard to believe, but definitely true if you check the numbers. And LeBlanc especially is absolutely on fire. Also something worth note is that Alex is going to be starting over Holo today, which I'm a little bit surprised because I felt like Holo actually had 2 very good games and was on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a shocker in all honesty, but it seems that Boom are very committed to rotating both of their junglers. Alex has had, some interesting champion choices as well as some more of the meta stuff. And, I think Boom is a team that has been on the rise, has shown a lot of good potential here. And this is why their level and their ranking has been bearing out as very, very powerful. Rocky, also very impressive performance against Beyond Gaming. Want to give the man in the top lane a lot of credit. And an incredibly close game from all 5 members against the likes of PSG Talon. It went down to the wire. 49 minutes, ended in a base backdoor. I mean, it's just, Boom Esports just looks so good.
I'm still so peeved about that game. They should have won that, but Unified stole a Drake, stole a Baron, and it's in the history books now. We're going to be taking a look at the other team here from Berjaya. Still the exact same roster, not rolling Philia, still competing with Arashi in the jungle here. And I think it's going to be very much the same story. Berjaya, in the earlier game, we saw their draft priority being very peculiar, where they do focus on 3 specific champions, and the only champions they have actually won games on. On the other hand, we're going to be taking a look at the mid lane matchup. Very different priorities here outside of the LeBlanc that I think is going to be highly contested. But after you go past the first pick, then it's relatively different. Minji, I feel like, is a little bit weaker in this patch because he no longer does have that Akali in his pocket. And I think the next big step for both of these players is to see if they have the Aurelia. I think the Aurelia is the defining pick on 11.14. You can destroy so many matchups, especially control mages like the Rise. They have really no chance against you. You can snowball completely out of control. And if you're a player like Minji, who does play for risky plays and assassins for the most part, I think you have to master Aurelia to continue your playstyle.
Yeah, we'll see if either of these players were able to pick it up or were willing to pick it up today as we look to head forward into the picks and bans. Ruby definitely has been a shining star for this roster, so he's certainly going to be a priority for teams to try and ban out. And yep, not even going to let the LeBlanc through. Berjaya will ban it away. Xin Zhao and the Lee Sin banned by Boom Esports against Arashi, trying to force him onto a less comfortable champion choice.
I'm
there's
not
that
sure
Zac
I
ban
agree
too
with the
against Alex.
Zac ban. That seems completely out of left field, but okay, sure. Alex was the only jungler so far to take up the Zac. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I just feel like Zac is something you pick when Xin Zhao, Olaf, Trundle, when a lot of picks are already off the table. But they're going to go ahead and ban the Zac. I can't wrap my head around that. We'll see if the Zac ban actually makes sense with the composition that Berjaya drafts for themselves. But as we were talking about power picks going into it, Berjaya, they definitely want Lee Sin, Gwen, and Ezreal. Those are the 3 go-to picks for them. Boom Esports, they definitely done their homework. They're going to take out the Lee Sin and the Gwen. So I don't know what Berjaya has. I honestly do not know what Berjaya has to come out with the winning strategy when their core picks are gone.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain, but we'll find out as we move forward into this draft phase. Berjaya let the timer tick down and lock in the Volley Bear. This has been a champion Arashi has gone to at least once before. But yeah, had been taken off that comfortable pick. We'll have to see what the changeup really is. Has been a strong early game jungle choice. Berjaya should be able to pilot it to good effectiveness, and there will be the Nautilus coming in once more for Enzo.
Okay, so it does look like Berjaya are setting up for strong gank potential, lots of crowd control, and most likely going to save their top lane last pick probably for Ozzy. That would be my guess. Boom Esports, really no surprises here. They are going to go for the Thresh first. Usually you follow that up for the Aphelios. Wako definitely can pilot that very well. And for Berjaya's part, looking at the Thresh, they decide to go in with the lane counter pick in the Nautilus. So, you know, a bit more lane focused, a bit more, I would say, counter pick focus on Berjaya. And Boom Esports already setting up for a very strong front to back.
Yes, indeed. Boom. Were they really blind picked for Rocky right now? Oh my goodness, I think they do. Just early on, securing the Renekton. I believe this was a champion he showed a lot in spring.
Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely the way you want to draft here. You know that, you know that Ozzy's going to get a counter pick either way, so you might as well just go for the champion that has the fewest ways to actually just implode in late. Like Renekton is rock solid in that role. So I love what Boom Esports have done. It's very strong in the Drake fight as well. On the other hand, Berjaya, K2 had a great game earlier against Alpha on Vars, and it is one of those lane counters against Aphelios. You outrange him quite significantly. They're just going to go for that instead. So I like this for Berjaya. They are settling for a pretty strong winning condition just by going in early, and they have that potential to do jungle invade off the priority of the bot lane.
Yeah, now looking ahead into the next ban phase, it will be, okay. The Diana and then the Nidalee ban. I believe that's a pocket ban.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't think Alex has played Nidalee before, and it does not really register on this patch as being an incredibly strong pick, but maybe they've seen something in solo queue we haven't. They're going to take it off the table, and it should be Berjaya going for Minji's pick right now. He's most likely going against some form of control mage, so we'll see what he does go for. He has a couple of interesting picks. Akali's off the table, but he does have that Zoe, which has been his go-to in spring. And with the Varus, setting up for an 80 AP poke composition. Love what Berjaya have.
Yeah, no, I really like this draft from Berjaya Dragons. They definitely seem to have gone for something that they feel comfortable with, even when some of the comfort picks have been banned away, and gone towards an interesting comp that I think the execution, the win condition, makes a lot of sense for them. Boom, they will lock the Trundle for Alex. Okay, so we're going to see another jungler picking up the Trundle.
Okay, this does make sense against the Volibear, as we have said. Trundle is one of those few champions that can actually stand against Volley and trade back and forth. However, as we have seen in the earlier game today by I think it was it Boom Esports? No, it was not Boom. It was Impunity. Trundle is a champion that if you don't get things going early, he does tend to fall behind. Though I think Boom Esports don't really mind that much because the pillar is still quite useful if you're playing straight front to back. On the other hand, Berjaya is going to go back to an old favorite here of Ozzy. He's going to go for the Gnar. It is a counter pick against Renekton, though it does get online a little bit slower. So, you know, I really like both drafts here. Boom Esports going to go for a front to back, tried and true strategy, hyper carries on both the AD role and the mid lane, while Berjaya go for poke, early game aggression. They have some really good matchups here. Zoe versus Victor is one of those matchups where Minji can get absolutely out of control, can roam on either side of the map. Same thing for K2 in the bot lane. So Berjaya should have a bot lane core where they can evade on the red buff multiple times, wait for Ozzy to then bail them out in the late game, as he will be that split pusher. So a very comfortable sort of draft on the Berjaya side, where they have strengths from start to finish on their end.
Yeah, no, I really like what Berjaya brought out in this draft. I think it's a very clear win condition for themselves, and they have a lot of comfort across the lanes. On the opposite side, Boom, they certainly want to get rolling some of the team fights. I think the Trundle, you know, I guess it was just going to be a matter of time before we saw somebody else besides the Impunity game, it being picked up. The Victor as well, Ruby kind of going back to his old tricks of some of those long-range AP mages. But for the Berjaya Dragons, they've got a lot of long-range themselves. I actually like how the Gnar slots into the poke composition, at least in mini form. But Berjaya Dragons, it seems like have come up with a draft to rival their opponents.
Yeah, I really like Berjaya Dragon's chances here. I feel like this is sort of the draft that they won, I think, in spring against Boom Esports as well. And there's a couple critical points here. If Ruby gets snowballed on, then the game can go sideways incredibly quickly. You have a Fed Zoe on the map. She starts moving into these lanes that are already, you know, slightly favored in the Gnar and the Varus side, and she just snowballs the entire map the other way. You also have a lot of just dive potential coming out from the Volibear, so that amplifies whatever success you get on the Midgie trade. So you have to pay very close attention to the mid jungle. In my mind, it has a potential to get be over at 15 minutes. This is how scary the Berjaya composition is. Well, for Boom Esports, they can definitely hold on for a while, but it does require them to stay put, not take a lot of crowd control, especially the Sleepy Trouble bubble, and they can't go too aggressive here. If any of their lanes get punished, because of the fact that all 3 lanes are technically getting countered, they can just lose the game in a very speedy fashion.
Yeah, Boom will have to be a little careful now. Keeping in mind, though, they have been able to play at the level of the top of the league, really. A very close game against the likes of PSG Talon, a win against the likes of Beyond Gaming. So just on nameplates alone, Boom should have an advantage over the Berjaya Dragons, but the draft does not favor them nearly as much. Keeping in mind the mid-jungle you talked about, I do want to always keep an eye on the Trundle in a game like this, to see if he can match the pressure that Arashi can put out, to see if he can be in the lanes early enough. And I wonder if maybe he doesn't try to snowball Rocky ahead a little bit. Talked about the old school Gnar counter, but perhaps they can combine up a little early, and it'll be a little hard for him to hop that pillar.
Oh yeah, that's one of the fun interactions. You can actually interrupt and shorten the length of the double hop coming in from Gnar by placing the pillar in the exact right place. We do see this quite a bit, especially when Renekton's pushing into tower and you have Gnar going back on the top side of the tower where there's a very narrow gap. Trundle comes in, uses it, and forces out the flash immediately. Then you get the chase down. We have had that happen a couple of times. But overall, you know, we do have to see how this ends up. I wouldn't say Trundle is necessarily the best dive buddy with Renekton. I think it would still much rather prefer to have some sort of hard crowd control to follow up on the Ruthless Predator, but it does work specifically in this matchup. So see as we get into lane what's going to happen. If I'm just looking at the level 1s, there's also quite a bit of potential coming in from Berjaya's side. They have some very fast cooldown slows coming in from Ozzy, and then you have you have a early stun coming in from Volibear if he wants to use it. So I think a way that Berjaya Dragon could try to play this is try to force vertical and have an actual early level 1 cheese going deep inside of the enemy jungle.
We could very well see it. I feel like Berjaya Dragons are one of the teams that certainly wouldn't mind to pull off a little bit of cheese every now and again. And we will load up onto Summoner's Rift for our 5th game tonight. Boom Esports looking to add one more on the win column, keep themselves in that top 4 easily enough. And Berjaya Dragons, fresh off a victory earlier today, looking to add to that as well. Let's get into it and see how we go. Alex walks straight in. Do a little bit of damage from Arashi at level 1. Just going to start backing away. No need to give yourself a disadvantage this early on.
We're going to be taking a look at the runes here. It's been a while since we've seen the Gnar, but, you know, I think the most recent change to him was actually a pretty detrimental one, where we saw both the Strikebreaker and the Divine Sunder getting nerfed for the champion. So, you know, not even Rest is picking it up anymore. But we'll see how Ozzy does on this. This is pretty interesting that Berjaya basically has melded these are the only champions we can win on from spring with these are the only champions we can win on in summer, and put them together in the same composition. You got Varus with Gnar on the same team, so
they're just hoping they can win any time.
Yeah, you know, they essentially doubled their repertoire by going back in time. So kudos to them, even though it's off meta, it's what has worked. And Berjaya has always been this team that they have ridiculous win rates on the champions they know how to play, and basically no wins on the champions that they're not familiar with. So, well, there's never really been a team that has followed the meta too closely. So I like this change from them.
definitely a team that's been unafraid to do their own thing, to march to the beat of their own drum as we get things going. One thing that is always going to be worth keeping in mind is a potential downside of Boom, swapping a lot between Hollow and Alex is that, how much coordination, how much does that actually start to suffer a little bit when you're having two different junglers potentially on comms? We have no way of knowing how much time they're spending on scrims and in practice games with either of the junglers. You have to think that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason to when they're making these swaps, so it almost feels like they're probably scheduled, like they just want everybody to get a lot of game time. I wonder what the disadvantage of that could be, though.
In terms of my experience with pro teams, the change is immediate. If you start incorporating a different jungler in, you start to see consistency issues almost immediately on the team. It's much harder to try to like meld minds together, and you have to understand that on pro teams, players are very, very close-knit. Like a lot of it is not verbal communication. It's understanding based on habits and based on cohabitat, basically. So when you have two junglers, it becomes a lot harder to get everything in order. However, we have to go back to the game as we have Arashi coming in.
Yep, early on, and Pop already extremely low here, just trying to stay alive. Sky Splitter comes down, not able to find any follow-up damage, but Alex will come in. Pillar thrown down, counter engage, forces the flash, the follow, the chomp, and the first blood for Alex. So it seems to be working out so far. Hooks on hooks and flays on flays. And it's Wako claiming another one. Boom Esports bottom lane come up with a quick 2 with a little help from their jungler.
You usually think that because the Nautilus hook comes out faster, that's an advantage. But in that specific instant, because it went too fast and already finished his animation, Pop actually got the death sentence back. That was absolute disaster for Berjaya. And it does come down to the fact that I felt like, not landing the hook really was detrimental. Arashi wasn't willing to go in with the flash early on either. It just meant that it was an easy counter gank coming in. And let's watch that interaction again. Pop lands, wait for the hook to then come in before he pulls back and cancels it into the flay. That's usually the dynamic that gives Nautilus the edge. But in that case, that was the dynamic that caused him to die.
I choose to believe that Pop is a secret genius, Clement. He whiffed that first hook on purpose, just so that Berjaya's bottom lane thought he wouldn't be able to get the second time around.
I probably wouldn't go that far, but I agree that at the end...
It's all 5D chess, I'm telling you.
Okay, I'll believe.
Yeah. Flawless logic. Anyways, another champion to keep an eye on, I think, in this game will be Ruby on this Victor. For a while, he became a LeBlanc main, but now he's back to his old habits. Victor kind of slots in with some of those types of champions that he likes, the Cassiopeia, the Vladimirs, the Orianas, I should say. I'm curious to see how well it performs in this game against Minji Zoe.
I'm pretty surprised that he's actually not trying to match with the TP, instead just going for the cleanse. So this is saying that I'm just going to scuff my lane. I don't care, but as long as I don't get Minji snowballed, I'm fine with that. You can tell Minji off to a great start already, expended his TP, does have extra items over Ruby, and is allowed to just leave lane and roam around. So this could be very detrimental to Alex if he pokes his head towards the south.
Oh boy. Alright, that pillar doesn't do anything that he wanted it to. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does land, but the team is here to save his bacon, and they have the inside track on Cloud Dragon, so they might be able to take this very early.
Really nice collapse coming in from Boom Esports bottom lane. Arashi is in the vicinity, but I don't think he can go into this, especially not without the flash.
I think Alex is going to be a dead man, though. Yep, K2 has his eyes set firmly on the prize. And Minji, deletes Pop.
Oh, no.
Berjaya get 2 back here. Gravity Field comes down, not enough damage to finish the job.
So I was partially right. He didn't go in for the Drake, but he went in for the Trundle. And that's absolutely huge because Minji is off to a massive snowball already. It seemed like Ruby was actually pushed back into lane on that fight, wasn't able to have an impact there. We'll watch the positioning again on what happened to Ruby. He did come in a lot later than Minji there. Yeah, it seems like Minji did get the inside track without dealing any damage, and does get onto location. We already had Trundle extremely low on the previous engage, and K2 with the red buff able to put down even more hurt too.
And we've got more fighting happening. Enzo gonna get taken down. Waka with the final kill, but falls. And I think Pop might be in a little bit of trouble. Do they have enough damage to finish the job? I don't think they do. With that Varus, just barely.
Yeah, he was very close to getting that second kill, and this is what I was talking about the laning phases from Boom Esports, is that, sure, Wako did go up 2 kills, and with K2 just getting a little bit back, you can see how volatile these lane matchups really are. When Berjaya Dragons are supposed to win out on the 2v2, they get the jungle help as well, and the bottom lane deficit has been completely evaporated, no longer exists. So Berjaya Dragons, once again, they're open to play towards the bot side really heavily, and I think if you look at the top lane, this is also pretty worrying for Boom Esports, because Renekton without jungle help doesn't actually beat out Gnar. And Ozzy is off to a great start here. He's already up by 12 CS, and he also has the Cull. So he's actually up by even more than that.
Yeah, just trying to compound on his advantages here. Enzo, Minji, and Arashi all moving into the mid lane. Or moving around the mid lane, I should say. Trying to give Ruby a hard time in this. And Berjaya definitely have the tempo advantage wherever they need it. Let's see what they end up doing with it. I think it's going to be a Rift Herald play.
That's going to be completely uncontested at this point. No MR is going to be coming out anytime soon, and Minji Ari with the Sword Shoes is doing very close to true damage at this point. That is a terrifying thought to think about. He probably does have the sudden impact, so extra magic pen on that. I like the play from Boom Esports. They're not trying to hard contest. At this point, it's very difficult to do so. And instead, they just do the cross-map play, the safe and guaranteed resources taking.
Yep, at least trying to find an answer for it. That certainly helps. But Boom will get whatever they can in exchange. Wako Pop moving very far forward. A little dangerous to do. I mean, K2 already showed he can be an absolute terror on the rise. And Wako just playing a dangerous game. Gets that Lantern at what looked like the last second. K2 doing a great job today on Varus. I've been very impressed with his piercing arrows.
Does stay around from Wako's side to get the extra play. I'm not sure I like that play. It was very dangerous, honestly. Like, if he took the took the charge to the face, and he was just dead right there, and Pop might still go down for that.
Yeah, he's gonna get sacrificed. Everybody was there. Even Minji wanted a piece of it. Wako, ooh, does force out a stopwatch pop on Enzo as he ulted away, trying to get an answering kill. Yeah, and I mean, it does kind of feel like it's true Wako fashion to step a little farther forward than he should.
Yeah, I don't think that plate was really worth ditching the lane position for. And they do get punished right afterwards, so K2 is solidly in the lead at this point. He already has his Dust Blade before 10 minutes. That's
very fast.
That's not a sight you want to see.
I mean, we saw this last game against Alpha. I mean, very terrifying. K2 Dustblade Varus. Just the poke was insane. And between that and Minji, I mean, you can't itemize against both of them.
Yeah, this is getting kind of out of hand at this point. I feel like Berjaya Dragons should just take every Drake from now on for quite a while until Aphelios has 2 items. So, yeah. Sit tight, Boom Esports. Jayo, maybe.
Yeah, try to write it out for a little bit. I mean, yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you get painted into a bit of a corner, and I think in the draft phase, Berjaya had a very clear win condition. They're working on it so well. Yeah, you're already starting to see that poke hurt.
Yeah, 270 damage on a single piercing arrow, and he can get 2 more of those early on into the laning phase. Interestingly enough, Berjaya backing at kind of off intervals before the Drake just comes up, so Arashi not in the right position, Minji just based. However, they do get bailed out here as Boom Esports don't feel particularly comfortable about starting this one. They finally realize that, oh, they actually had an opening right there as the pink ward is taken out, and they immediately give up, which I think is the right call.
Yeah. Not recognizing the opportunity they had in the right moment. Alex will go in looking for something onto Minji, but that's perfectly fine. He's out easily, and this will be the Drake on the inside track. I think Boom are looking to see if they could fight this, but I don't know if they can secure that dragon in time. They steal it away. Alex might give his life for that one, but he's going to be at least happy he could take the objective. Meanwhile, though, Berjaya Dragons muscling in for the kills. Ozzy a little low, soon to hit Meganar, takes the blast cone over the wall, and Ruby is actually going to walk face first into him as Arashi finishes the kill off onto Pop. Ruby doesn't want any part of that, as Rocky, now the last man standing apart from him, will finally fall.
A bit of a head scratcher, honestly, from Boom Esports. I don't think they could have contested there. Berjaya were so far ahead, and they already had Ozzy in. I think what they were banking on was the fact that Ozzy was in mini-Nar form, so they thought that maybe they could take the 5v5, but honestly, K2 is just too far ahead. When you have a mythic lead like that, you need to get out of the river. You need to just give over the objective. They kind of overstay here, and critically, Ozzy actually gets past the ramp before Renekton can seal it off, so they're able to do enough damage to just take down Wako at the start of the fight. Unfortunately for Rocky here, he does get one kill, but it's only the support, not enough to really get it back. And I feel like Boom Esports, they could have gotten that done with just giving up Alex's life rather than giving up multiple kills there. That was giving way too much over to K2 and Minji. Neither of them die. They don't get the bounties there, and the snowball continues.
Yeah, so they grab a dragon, but at what cost? A very high one, it turns out. Boom. I do feel like they may have just been the victim of their own overconfidence. Again, I think this has happened individually this game. This has happened now in a 5v5 this game. Unfortunately, they're just, feeding more kills over, and K2 is every bit the terror he was last game.
I do really want to see the AD numbers on K2 and Wako and just read out the differences there, because K2 should be very, very far ahead at this point. Let's see how much he does with the piercing arrow. Oh, okay. Actually, a bit less than last time, only 191.
Yeah, not too bad on that hit. No, piercing arrow doesn't land that time. We'll have to keep an eye out for it. But yeah, it seems like this game has certainly swung a lot more on the bottom side than we were used to. Top has been a very quiet affair, with just Ozzy having a very happy time stacking them up early on in this game. Meanwhile, both junglers paying a visit towards bottom side.
The key thing
Alex
here
with
is
that smite steal did help, though.
Oh, it definitely did. It means that Boom Esports can choose to opt out of Drake fights if Berjaya Dragons have a firm control on it, which I assume they will have. And I like how slow Berjaya Dragon's actually taking this. Arashi going for the guaranteed tower take or tower damage here because they know that Ruby has just backed, instead of going for the much more risky tower dive on the bottom side. Even though K2 is 6-0-2, a Trundle showing up could still mess up your day, so, they're just going to open up on the top side instead.
Yeah. Why give the opportunity for a bounty away, right? If you don't have to.
Yep.
Should be an easy Rift Herald, another uncontested take here. Berjaya Dragons have definitely been shining on this side of the map so far today. And looks like the counter pressure, Boom, they want to make a play bottom, but they're not going to actually bring Alex in to do that, so nothing doing.
Yeah, I don't see the team having a great time at trying to initiate a tower dive either, so don't really think Alex is going to get much done. Just going to pop some wards down, make sure they can avoid some ganks, but that's going to be it. And I think Boom Esports, if you're really looking at this composition, at the fastest, it's a 2-item comp. So you're looking about 25 minutes where they can really take a 5v5. There's still another 10 minutes on the clock where they need to sit tight. And I think we can, kind of make a mental timer right here that right now Boom Esports are down 3 kills at 15. Can they still keep themselves within 3 deaths when it comes to 25? And we can make a checkup back then.
Yeah, gotta keep watching for it. In the meantime, Berjaya do have a couple of tools to keep pushing their lead and try to roll the gold forward. Ooh, Ozzy waiting and baiting. Nearly has a full Narbar. Just getting a little bit of punishment off onto Rocky. And, Rocky was a player that we saw some really impressive performances out of yesterday. I loved what he was able to do up against Beyond Gaming. But he is, as we have said before today, kind of forced onto Hanabi duty.
Pretty much. That's the thing about Renekton. In a lot of matchups where he's supposed to win early, if he doesn't get that jungler attention to get the tower dive on, life gets pretty hard. And right now, Renekton doesn't really have a place in the game. The team, even though he's great on Dominus, the team can't take team fights. And I think once again, Boom Esports are having to rely on just a steal. I feel like Alex, you're on a solo mission here. You try to go in, see if you can get a smite, flash out. If not, dying for the Drake is perfectly acceptable as well. And we'll see.
Full telegraph. They actually want to fight this. He moves in. Chains of Corruption will land. The smite goes down, and it is secured by Arashi this time.
Ooh,
but Rocky is in the mix, and he just opens up damage with some slicing and dicing. Gets himself a double kill. That definitely was justified.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. Berjaya had the inside track already, but somehow we saw Arashi going down extremely low, and the teleport from Renekton allowed him to just go into the backline and get his work done there. Definitely not supposed to happen, and it feels like to me Berjaya Dragon missed the majority of their poke as they were defending the ramps. Ruby wasn't hit by anything, Wago was completely untagged, so we'll watch that again. Arashi tanks up the Drake for a very, very long time, and I guess Alex popped the Subjugate onto him as well. Arashi does get the Drake, but in the meantime has to pop his ultimate to use the Unstoppable to get that down, and just use it a little bit too much. On the flip side, we didn't see any poke land, so Boom Esports get away with murder twice in a row.
Yeah, Rocky really good job at tracking out, first Arashi and then Enzo. Also helps open up the bot tower take for Wako, Pop, and Alex later on. So Boom, they find themselves an honest-to-goodness gold lead here now as they come back into this one, even securing first brick.
I just feel like my analyst brain sort of melting down here because it just can't accept that this is what actually happened on the Rift, where Berjaya, by every right, should have held onto that Drake and should have decimated Boom Esports coming into that
Why does this always happen in Berjaya Dragons games? I feel like it's always this is what should happen, and then it doesn't. And then we get confused Clement.jpg.
Oh, the funny thing about Berjaya Dragons is they were known for the Baron Miracle team. Like, for some reason, enemy teams would always throw away the game at Baron, and that's how they got the majority of their wins. I'm not even kidding. They got the majority of their wins after a horrendous early game, and somehow the enemy decides to suicide at Baron, and they just pick up the scraps. So, I guess you get some and you give some in that situation.
Normal rules just do not apply. That's the best I can come up with. Okay, Alex goes in, and Alex is out. They actually tried to pull a bait and switch there, but Enzo will finally fall to Ruby, who just opens up with those lasers. I feel like Alex should not have gotten away with that either, but he just barely does.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it happened. I'm starting to open up to the possibilities of League of Legends right now, so...
Watching Berjaya Dragons is a mind-expanding experience. All right, Rocky going for Ozzy. Alex is here too. Meganar soon to come, so that Dominus is not going to last long enough. But Boom, at 20 minutes, they've managed to kind of find a way to equalize and even exceed the gold in their own favor. They still have a Dragon advantage from the earlier steal. And Ruby kind of solo pushing up top, forcing Minji back a little bit. This is the point in the game where the Victor starts to become a little bit of a threat, right? I mean, he does have a kill in his pocket. He has a bit of a bounty there from the back of the fight, and I believe the Leandries is on, so that's not too bad for him to start things off here. It's just Minji is also a threat, so you got to be careful when you're doing that two-step.
Yeah, definitely the case here, but he should still have a pretty good time on the side lanes. He can use a minion wave to dodge out on the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and I like this cheater recall from him. Just knowing that his minions is going to get the job done. And opening up the map is great for Boom Esports. It does mean that they can side lane split push and try to deny the poke composition with minion pressure on the top side here. So Berjaya are finding this game pretty difficult to maneuver right now. They can go for Drakes, but honestly, Boom Esports does not have to answer. And they're finding it hard to find places to actually use their siege composition. Varus and Zoe are two champions that do fall off later game compared to Aphelios and Victor. So Berjaya are now, I think, firmly on the back foot. They don't really have a place to get the fights going, honestly. I don't see Boom Esports sitting together and allowing themselves to get poked out on any part on the map anymore.
Yeah, just playing a little more respectfully, looking to get the inside track themselves on this next dragon, although Alex does take a little bit of poke punishment. Able to return it in kind thanks to Ruby. Oh boy, and the turn is fast. That's a big shutdown going over to Enzo. Of all people now, Wako trying to find something as he does trade 1-for-1 onto K2. But Berjaya Dragons come up with a decisive win in that fight. Rocky nowhere to be found. He couldn't even start the teleport in time.
What the hell was that positioning from Boom Esports? Oh my god. I don't know.
I don't know anymore, man. I don't know.
Why would you decide to split the team and walk over to the mid lane? Like, that positioning was so bad. Like, watch Wako here. What are you doing, Wako? No, just go for the Drake. Just go for the Drake. And the rest of the team even follows him. Like, what do you expect to happen? If you walk into the ramp like that, you're all gonna die.
He just baited his whole team.
Oh my god. I feel like my head is getting melted by both of these teams. This is just...
Some time ago, Clement, there was a show. It had an ending that a lot of people didn't like. It was called Game of Thrones. This is the Game of Thrones, where it just keeps getting tossed back and forth.
Oh, that positioning was so bad from Boom Esports. Like, you never get out of Drake to then answer mid. Your mid lane tower is on, like, what is it, like 500 HP after that push? It wasn't worth getting out of position and killing the old team for that. That was...
Why is Wako frontlining? Again, okay, there we go. Even I know not to do that.
I'm just at a complete loss for words. I really don't understand what Boom Esports were trying to do there. And it just seems like a moment where Wako kind of lost his mind in terms of positioning, where, let's be honest, it does happen quite often. And the rest of the team decided to follow. But right now, we do have an attempt on a full 5v5.
That's a Sleepy Trouble bubble. Instantly spotted out. Oh, Rocky. Taking a lot of poke damage. Gonna have to dice his way over the pit. That's gonna stop before it started.
I do like the attempt. If you can get an engage there without taking any poke prior to that, you should be able to then close out on the 5v5. But obviously, Berjaya Dragons were keeping very close attention to their minimaps. They did see the TP coming in. Massive amounts of damage. So... that does give Berjaya a lot of time to play with. At this point, Ozzy should be able to split push against Rocky. And they might not even be going for that play as the Death Rush is set very well. Here we go.
They turn. It is going to be onto... Hop doesn't find enough damage on him to get the deletion, but the turnaround there, Alex actually manages to find Enzo, sticks to him, and enables Ruby to take the kill. Meanwhile, though, Ozzy about to go Mega Gnar. I think Boom recognized they got one, but weren't going to get any further on the low health bars and wisely turn around.
Now, really good play coming in from Ruby. He does dodge out on the Chains of Corruption, popping the Zhonya's at the correct moment, so it wouldn't actually land and spread to the rest of the team. They are able to get Enzo very low with Alex sticking onto him. And Berjaya, that was kind of a weird play coming in from a poke composition, in all honesty. I feel like they had better ways to deal with that. But it was an interesting mind trick, because they did have Minji split pushing on the top lane. Boom Esports, they definitely want the vision over this sector. They walk in, and Berjaya nearly get a win, but honestly, Boom Esports just outplay them in that case.
Yeah, well, and you know, this is what Boom wanted to draft for, right? It was a bit more about the front to back, just finding the fights when they could. But they do have to be just oh so careful. Ooh, little fadeaway shot from Wako. Man, Pop has just had his back.
Really good move there from Thresh as well. And, you know, we said we would check in at 25 minutes.
How's that going?
Nothing according to plan. So,
yeah.
Usually you extrapolate how the game's going to go based on 15 minutes, but I guess this game, it just it doesn't really matter. Boom definitely outplaying in a lot of cases here.
Does mean Boom can try to open up this mid turret. They will be able to secure it. Gravity field coming down, and Minji does manage to find a big old Sleepy Trouble bubble and some burst onto Ruby and Pop, but not enough to find the kill. Boom will be okay with all of that for now.
They do get the flash there. I think the tower is kind of a foregone conclusion there, so I don't really care about it. But Enzo not having his flash makes him an easy target when it comes to those Baron setups and Drake setups. And we are
Absolutely.
seeing Berjaya trying to get maximum use out of Rocky not having his TP during this state. Ozzy close to getting his CS lead back. I think he should be able to split push against Rocky at this point. So we will see Berjaya being able to split the map open just a little bit more. Small note to myself is that Ninja does have the Shurelya's Revelry here, so we'll be able to find a pick and follow up on it quite easily. Boom Esports, they should stay grouped up.
Oh, finding Pop on the Sleepy Trouble bubble, the burst. But again, that's the risk that Minji runs going in there for that pick, is Ruby can just time out a laser. Does force him to think twice about it. Got to be careful. Another bubble lands. That'll delay the backs. That's actually a good amount of pressure that Berjaya have been able to dish out. And the Mountain Dragon is spawning in 10 seconds.
A great poke coming out from Minji. I love his use of the Raptor Wall right there, using the concave to get the extra distance into the mid wave. You can tell he's definitely a very experienced Zoe player. And K2 follows up with extra pressure, so they get both objectives here. And Ozzy also has come in with the perfect Narbar. So that should be a pretty easy take from their side. And I love what Boom Esports is doing, playing very close to the tempo, making sure they get resources on the flip side. Making sure they get vision security here.
Berjaya picking up their third Mountain Dragon of the game on Soul Point now. Have to check back on that a little bit later. Meanwhile, Boom actually setting up by the Baron. They hesitated for a moment. They're actually just going to clear away that ward, keep it all in the dark. That should prompt a reaction, though. And Boom, will they commit to this, or is it all a bait? Pop waits in the wings.
Yeah, Minji's out of position, and Ozzy
Shredding
does not have a Narbar. This is pretty difficult to fight off for Berjaya.
They get the hook onto Arashi. A little bit of hesitation. Boom actually decide they'd rather have the fight, but it's a little bit disoriented as Pop gets blown up by Minji. And the hesitation punishes Boom Esports.
Didn't get to see how much HP was on Baron. They do get spotted out a bit quicker than they liked, I would assume. And, you know, it's kind of hard to tell if Boom Esports should have turned or should have stuck to Baron in that situation. But Minju definitely with the clutch play here, and Enzo as well, getting the hook onto the most low health target. They instantly get the numbers advantage, and Boom Esports have to back off after that.
Stopping the Baron, certainly step one. Getting the kill, well, that's just gravy. Berjaya Dragons, tempo advantage with the lead for themselves here. This game is very close, though. I feel like all the Boom games we've watched recently, well, not all of them. The Beyond one was actually, it felt like Boom was very well in control for a good chunk of that. But Boom have made some close games happen. Berjaya have made some close games happen. Fun to watch these two teams play League of Legends.
I'll be honest, like, Berjaya is one of my favorite teams because they are... their fundamentals are kind of wonky, but when they're on their own champions, they do very well. And Boom Esports sort of hurts my head because I feel like they played to the opponent's level, whoever they are. So
that is fair to say. Yeah. Ooh. And Enzo actually goes in to not get hit by the gravity field. Pop gets chunked down to half the health bar again as Arashi tanks up through Alex. Ozzy still waiting on the Narbar. Meanwhile, Enzo, Arashi, K2 all trying to run away back to the safety of the tower. Rocky manages to take down Enzo, and Ozzy turns Mega a little too late for that. So Boom, keeping it clustered together, find the front-to-back fight. Or is it the back-to-front? I can't even tell anymore. I'm so backwards.
Yeah, it was very weird engage coming from Berjaya, and it might not be over just yet. They try to go for a full-on fight in the middle of the mid lane, which is mostly open terrain, and that is where you give your opponents the best chance to actually dodge out on skill shots. And there's nothing for Gnar to throw against, so you know, it was just kind of a head scratcher for me, honestly. I don't think Enzo should have tried to look for something there. The terrain just was very unfavorable for them. So we'll see that again. Yeah, he actually lands the hook here, and he's the one that starts the fight. But if you look at this terrain, it's so easy for everyone to just dodge around skill shots. And there's even a minion wave that takes a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. That cannon minion took away most of Minji's damage. So I don't know. That just felt like Enzo not understanding their win condition with the poke comp, and they end up paying quite dearly for it.
Yeah.
Berjaya somehow got the Drake.
They did. before all of that went down.
No, the Drake was enough. I'm sorry.
This is gonna be the Baron attempt, though. I think this is the commit now for Boom. Minji, not too close. Does have teleport if he were to need it, but I don't think they see this coming in time. And Boom, if they don't hesitate, should be able to secure the Baron. They do, and are gonna walk away from it at just the right time. Boom Esports finished what they started earlier.
Okay, so I think things are starting to get back to normal now. The front-to-back team comp understands its win conditions a bit better than Berjaya. They don't have vision on that side of the map. They lost the previous skirmish. Boom Esports just rush it down. And now all Boom have to do is not face tank this. They should walk on the left side of the minion wave. Okay, that's Alex.
Alex missed the memo, but everybody else did good. Okay, they actually want to start this fight. Oh, that's the root in place. Alex gonna get deleted, and Ozzy will be able to finish him off here. And now it's a numbers advantage, but Boom do feel like they have a strong fight all the same. In goes Rocky. He goes golden as well. Minji on the side, just dishing all the extra damage. Enzo is going to fall to Wako. K2 staying alive through it. It's a 1-for-1, a very wonky fight once again. And we're not done yet.
Oh, K2 finally goes down.
That's big shutdown gold in the pocket of Ruby. That actually gives the inside track to Baron push this tier 2 tower. There is Mountain Soul going down. And all of a sudden, it's gotten very chaotic. Clem, at the moment you said it was getting back to normal, I think everything decided to speed back up.
Honestly, life doesn't have to be that hard for Boom Esports, but I'm glad they still get the the inhibitor tower off of this. When you have the Baron empowered minions, you can just walk on the left side of the minion wave and use that to force Berjaya to come back into mid lane. Boom Esports tried the hard way. They give up the soul for inhibitor, which at this point of the game I actually think favors Berjaya. If I'm being completely honest, like mid lane inhibitor going down post 30 minutes isn't that big of an issue. You can actually clear the supers pretty easily. I think securing this soul, which is a permanent buff, is probably more beneficial. And to me, it's just kind of weird the way Boom Esports is playing this. They go super hard for an engage. They do get the flash from K2, which is great on the next Baron attempt. But honestly, they could have just forced position for Berjaya and denied the Dragon Soul. Yeah, just very risky play from Boom Esports that I don't think actually ends up favoring them.
Yeah, definitely some decision-making a little questionable in some cases here. They do have a strong fight, though, and they are going to muscle in to Berjaya's jungle, placing wards everywhere as they go. Does seem like they're not going to be keen on letting an Elder go over if the game does continue to go that long, which wouldn't be too surprised. Looking to continue sieging down turrets, but sieging into a poke comp is always a little difficult. Ooh. Pop just keeps getting punished by the Zoe poke. Minji finds a little bit more into Ruby as well, and now it's a game of Protect the Cannon minion as they siege. Berjaya do realize that they are out of cooldowns and have to cede ground as another tower will fall.
Yeah, losing a lot of HP here. They have to make a clean retreat for this, so still getting a little bit more off of their Baron. That's certainly nice. And I do want to point out the build here by Rocky. I really love this build. It does transition Renekton into a full tank after the Gargoyle Stoneplate. And with the Sterix as well, he's going to get a lot of shielding. However, I will also say that we have seen this build fall out of favor because of the Serpent's Fang, which I believe K2 definitely has on him. If he pops that in, he has to be very careful about the time that he uses it. If he's still underneath the, I believe it's Serpent's Poison, then he will lose 50% of his shield.
Yeah, that could be a little bit of trouble for Rocky, as he certainly has been favoring diving straight into the back line and making sure that he, or at least his team, can kill the rest of the Berjaya Dragons before they do the same to them. Alex forward. Trying to set up a little bit of an impromptu death brush. Not going to find a target, though. As they then rotate up to the top for another turret. We've seen the siege on two fronts now. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to land. Boom a little more emboldened by this. Will be able to keep the push on. They don't have Baron anymore to work with, but they do get some damage all the same.
Wako's giving me a heart attack. Pop gets tagged.
Right back to it again. Minji just still a threat on this Zoe, but the damage they should have... Oh, hook does not connect. Enzo tried to find something, but the tower defended for now.
I'm kind of baffled by this play from Boom Esports. I don't think they get anything out of this.
Well, they do let the super minions start to move in mid, but, you know, not being able to keep that pressure up just means, yeah, it's easy enough to back and clear. I think you're right. It does seem like they're floundering a little bit.
Yeah, it was a really risky play, and I don't think it was particularly worth it. If they started that play maybe 30 seconds later, then it would have been great. But unfortunately, they actually go in a little bit too early. So it allows Berjaya to deal with both pushes at the same time. They don't get the 6-man effect out of that push, so definitely could have synced that up a bit better there. And you don't really want to be trading siege situations against a poke composition. You can see how dangerous that was for Boom Esports, and they had to pull out completely once Pop got tagged once by the abilities. Okay, so this time around, I do think they have a better sync up here. They are pushing right before the Baron comes up, and there is a super minion
Alex.
here. Alex also gets the inside track.
Yeah, it does have that pillar. Is that going to be enough for them to get the play? Enzo trying to body block out as in goes Arashi with the Stormbringer. Doesn't find the targets he wanted. Brushbox goes down. Arashi forced to flash out after the Zhonya's play. And it seems like Berjaya... Oh, the big Gnar against the wall. That changes things here as Ozzy finds an inside track. Will it be enough to dish the damage? Enzo, Ruby both going golden. But Ruby comes out first and comes up huge. Wako claiming one, looking for two. That shutdown for K-Tube's taken out, and it is Boom Esports with the fight.
Rocky survives until the second rotation and is able to get into the backline. Ozzy also not getting a great Mega Gnar off. And Boom Esports are able to walk away with both Ruby and Wako intact. Can Minji get the hero play?
He really tried, but he just gets poked out of it. One last Nexus turret standing. And that is going to be it. Minji trying to be the hero. Minions running out. Oh, the inhibitor respawns. Just a little bit of trolling there, but Boom will be able to claim the kill. It was a wonky, wild, and wacky game, but Boom Esports will come up with the victory for themselves here in Week 3.
It's an incredible game that we just witnessed there. It looked like Berjaya was going to have smooth sailing after Boom Esports fumble a Drake fight, and then Boom Esports hand it back with another Drake fight. So I'm not sure what to say about this game. I honestly felt like at the end of the day, you could definitely say that Boom Esports had better late game execution, especially on most of these team fights. But let's watch how it all went down on the final half of this one. Initially, I think the critical problem here is that Boom Esports, they take a lot of members on that Chains of Corruption, so it stops them from actually walking up, and you know, Berjaya get a lot of time opening up on the front line here. We do have Ozzy actually did get the Gnar off, and this is the fight where it gets a little bit dicey. Ozzy cannot go back onto Mega Gnar. He goes in anyway, and Rocky just used him as a leaping stone to get into the back line and finish off K2 with the help of his Victor right there. So I felt like Berjaya could have pulled out a little bit earlier and still saved themselves from a bit of trouble, but unfortunately just much better execution there. I love how Rocky was playing it super close. He knew that he wasn't going to fall down with the item build that he had, and then allowed his team to just clean up the win from there. So, you know, very hard fought victory. Well done coming in by Boom Esports.
Yeah, I think you really made a really great point in the middle of that game, Clement, when you're talking about how Boom, it seems like playing to the level of their opponents is kind of a local specialty. They definitely got dragged into the Berjaya game plan, but they did come out victorious at the end of the day. And, you know, they were a little further up the standings. This was a red-hot team, despite losing to PSG, incredibly close game against the best team in the league. And they definitely showed that they could still close it, even if it was a little bit touch and go for a while. Trusting in the team fight worked out well. I liked what I saw out of Ruby's Victor. It just dishes so much damage at this stage of the game, and it's kind of an old specialty of champions like that. And obviously, Minji was able to match it for burst, just not sustained burst, unfortunately. So it seemed like, well, the poke composition certainly kept Boom Esports really on the back foot for a lot of the game. In those straight-up 5v5s, they just couldn't really match the pressure as the game went on, and Berjaya, unfortunately, ran a little out of steam. So, Boom, hard-fought, as you mentioned, but good victory for them. I think they'll be happy with it, even if it was a little crazy.
It was definitely very crazy down the line, and I feel like Boom Esports, I sort of figured out their weakness. To me, they're just not a team that pays enough attention to wave management. If you look at this game, there were multiple moments where Boom Esports should have been able to close out with much more authority, especially when they had the Baron buff, and they decided to go for a super risky engage when they actually had the mid lane wide open and could have used the Baron wave. They didn't do that. They handed over the Mountain Soul. And the other time we saw this was when they were sieging top lane. If they just waited 30 seconds for the mid lane to be pushed up, they could have gotten that tower for free. Instead, they nearly risked getting wiped by Minji and the poke coming out from K2 as well. And we also saw the same thing when they went up against PSG. You know, Ruby did not slow push a wave. The pressure goes back onto their side, and they kind of nearly tossed the game. Oh, they actually did toss the game in that one. But, you know, still congratulations to Wako for handling the business at the very end in the team fight. You know, usually Wako does play super risky. He never really got punished this game. I feel like this was a game where Wako actually had a pretty clean showing overall.
I think Pop was also there to save him too. Like that, I think that was the fadeaway shots really enabled him to step up and be aggressive. He does earn the MVP in this one. I think everybody from Boom did what they needed to do. It's just at different times, and finally all the pieces connected for them to get the victory. But we have got one more game to go, so don't go anywhere. We're going on break. We'll be right back with more of the PCS.